Well everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy A52 and see how this particular phone holds up in 2025. Now, a very big thing to keep in mind here is that with something like the Samsung Galaxy A52, this is one of those types of devices that came out quite a bit of time ago, so it's not really like the latest and greatest anymore. It is a fairly older type of device, as you can probably imagine, but if you can probably kind of think about some other devices that might be better, things like a current generation Samsung Galaxy A phone or like a past generation, Google Pixel or something like that, there might be some better options out there for you. So we'll take a look at these things throughout this whole entire video. First things first, if you do want to go through and pick up either one of these phones or any phone that I would recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the Samsung Galaxy A52. This phone originally came out back in 2021, so it is a little bit older now. As you can probably tell, it's not really the latest and greatest anymore. And that's just kind of what ends up happening when you go through and buy a phone. These types of devices are probably going to end up kind of showing their, experience for the most part. On the front side of this phone, you're basically getting a 6.5-inch Super AMOLED display. So it's a little bit of an older type of panel, as you can probably imagine. So it's going to be slightly older from that perspective. It's also going to be a 90 Hz display as well. So 6.5 inches, Super AMOLED, and it's 90 Hz. That right there is some pretty big stuff to keep in mind there for the most part. So it also only gets 800 nits of brightness, which again isn't too terrible. But if you're looking at a majority of phones nowadays, it is kind of nicer to basically have a device that might be giving you a little bit of a better experience here and there. And with this type of device, it's really not terrible, but like I said, you might be able to go ahead and swing for a better device in some other ways. So, we'll take a look at that throughout this video. Another big thing to keep in mind is that with a device like this, you're still maintaining a USB Type-C port on the bottom of this thing, which is always nice to have, and you're getting a micro SD card slot. Having a micro SD card slot is a very nice thing to have. I'm a very big fan of that, and you are essentially getting that type of capability here, which is another really cool thing when it kind of comes down to it. So personally for me, I'm a really big fan of that. And I think that is a really cool thing to keep in mind there for the most part. Now, on top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind here too is that the phone itself is primarily built kind of completely out of plastic. So it's not really a phone that is, very, very amazingly built. It is built pretty basic, so it's not really anything super insane. So I don't want to give the impression that this type of device is going to be giving you like an amazing, like crazy type of experience. That's not necessarily what's going to be happening here for the most part. So I do think that is kind of a big thing to keep in mind. But I would probably tell you that for the most part, if you are about to go through and pick up a device of some sort, you might be able to go through and swing for a better type of device when it comes down to it in some other ways. So I think when it comes down to this type of device, I think it looks great. It still feels okay. But keep in mind that if you're wanting to go and kind of get a better performing, better feeling device, there might be some better options when it comes down to it for the most part. So in terms of that kind of covers it up for the most part on the exterior. Now, on top of that, when it does kind of come down to its, price tag, right now you can probably buy it for like less than $100 in a bunch of different places. So that right there is actually not that bad. It's not a terrible price. But like I said, there might be some better options out there. Rather than buying this one, I do think there might be some better options out there for the most part anyways. So from that side too, that kind of covers it up there. Now on top of that, when it comes down to its camera layout, on the back side is basically going to be going through and giving you a quadruple camera setup, a 64 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 5 megapixel macro, then a 5 megapixel depth camera. So this type of camera for the most part is going to be giving you a pretty solid type of experience from that particular side. So although it's not going to be like the most perfect experience of all time, it's still going to be maybe a little bit, wishy-washy. For a 2021 A series phone, it's not terrible. But with that being said, this camera can only do 4K at 30 on the back and 4K at 30 on the front. That resolution already is a little bit outdated, and there might be some better options out there for you. So that right there, albeit it's not the biggest deal in the world, you might be seeing that in some ways that is kind of an unfortunate type of situation to be in, because there might be some better options out there for the most part. So like I said, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but that could just be one other small minor thing that you might be seeing here. Personally for me, I think the camera is like good, I think it's okay, but it's really not like an amazing type of camera layout. And I do think that there might be some better options out there for you rather than going through and buying like this type of device for the most part. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like I said, not the biggest deal in the world, but that is probably just going to be one of those things you might be running into in this type of device too. Now, on top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind here too are these software updates. So as of this point, this device is pretty much done getting software updates for the most part, which, is kind of unfortunate if you're kind of thinking about it. It's not, again, the biggest deal in the world, but if you are trying to go through and get a device that is going to be giving you a little bit of a better experience, there might be some better options out there for you rather than going through and buying this particular device. So I will probably tell you, in my personal opinion, going through and getting a device like this, the software updates just make it not that good of a device anymore. And I do think that there are some better options out there for us rather than going through and buying this type of device. So, like I said, if you have the option of kind of swinging through and getting a better device, there might be some better ones out there rather than this one. So again, just kind of keep that in mind. But, with this type of phone, it just doesn't really make too much sense to go through and buy it anymore, just from that particular perspective. The battery size, though, is actually pretty big. That's always been one cool thing about these types of phones. 4,500 mAh battery. Like I said, these types of phones do give you a really good type of experience when it comes down to that side. So I, for one, I'm a really big fan of that. It's not going to be perfect, but I do think it's going to be giving you a pretty solid experience from that side too. So I do think that is in and of itself another one of those kind of nice things that's kind of going on with these type of devices when it comes down to it. And finally, when it comes down to the performance, this type of device is essentially going to be going through and giving you a Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G chipset inside with 4, 6, or 8 gigs of RAM. So you can really spec out this thing to a lot of different RAM models if you really want to. So I do think that is in and of itself another nice thing going on for this type of device when it comes down to it. So I do think personally for me from that particular side, I think with a phone like a Samsung Galaxy A51 in this, or 52 in this case, I think it's a good phone performance wise, but again, it's not really going to be that great. And if you're looking at it in terms of a 4-year-old A series phone, it'll be all right. But if you're looking at it in the lens of like, this is a phone that is like a competitive against the Samsung Galaxy S25, that is not the case. Any phone from the last year or two is probably going to be better than this particular device. So it doesn't really make too much sense to buy this phone from a performance perspective. And it really doesn't make a lot of sense to buy this phone really at all anymore. I can't really think of a situation where I would recommend this phone anymore. It's not a terrible phone, it's not a bad phone, but there just are some better options out there rather than these types of devices. I think a Google Pixel 7 or above is going to be giving you a way better experience than this thing. A Samsung Galaxy S23 or above, or an iPhone 14 or above. Those types of devices I think are probably going to be giving you overall better experiences rather than this type of device. So when it comes down to it from that side, just kind of keep that in mind. I do feel like if you're trying to go through and buy a device, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to go and buy this one anymore when there's way better options out there for you. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.